Well, good afternoon and welcome to the second of the Rector's recipes. Yesterday I made Rocky Road and we thought about Jesus's rocky journey through from Palm Sunday to being crucified on Good Friday. And today we're going to think about what happened when Jesus went into the temple and he got really angry and he upturned all the tables of the money changers. And so we're going to make an upside down pudding. Now it's a fairly straightforward dish to make. On the bottom of our bowl we're going to add some syrup in, and then on top of that we're going to add some pineapple and then some cake mixture. So like yesterday, we're going to start off with measuring some golden syrup, about 2 spoonfuls into our bowl. Just going to spread that round. I think actually probably got enough there with one, but just a little bit more. Not very good for you, but very nice. So I'm just going to spread that around the bowl. Just give you a nice sweet topping. Get all the syrup off the spoons. And put that to one side. And then the next thing to go in is our pineapple. So if you buy one of these tins, this one actually has got a ring pull on the top, which is very handy. We can just get it to come off. So today I'm making pineapple upside down, which is the best known of the upside down puddings. But of course you could actually make any upside down pudding. So you could put any different fruit on the top. It's nice made with fresh summer fruits in the summer, things like raspberries. You can just leave it as a plain syrup sponge with just the syrup on. And you could also chocolate it, make it with chocolate, put some cocoa in the cake mixture and use a chocolate syrup on the top. And so I'm going to arrange the pineapples around the dish. Now I'm going to actually cook this in the microwave, and you'll see I'm making mine into a pudding basin. You could also bake it, in which case you may be better using a shallower oven-proof dish. So those are in the bottom now. I'll put the tin to wash out and recycle. And then we're going to put some cherries in, glacé cherries that have been cut in half. And I'm going to put these upside down so that when you eventually turn the pudding out, they will end up the right way round. So I'll just arrange those around. I've already cut those in half, and actually I think I'm going to need just one more to go in the middle. Whoops. Let's just find the pack. I'll add one more in, just into the middle of the mixture where I've got a little bit of space. There we are. So if you look at that now, you can see that it's arranged all nicely in the bottom of the bowl. So that's the fruit arranged. So the next thing now is to make the sponge to go on the top. So I tend just to use an all-in-one sponge mixture, and I'm using 100 grams of each of the mixture of the ingredients. So I'm going to start off. It's important that you have self-raising flour. Alternatively, you could use plain and add a teaspoon of baking powder. So I've got 100 grams. So I just tend to put my bowl, I've got some nice electronic scales that I use. I just put the bowl on, and I can just zero it after each addition and add the next ingredient in. And 100 grams of flour, if you haven't got scales, is the equivalent to 4 heaped tablespoons of flour. And then I'm going to add 100 grams or 4 ounces if you're still working old money. And if you were using a spoon, that would be 4 level tablespoons, because sugar's a lot heavier than flour. So 100 grams again. And then 100 grams of either butter or soft margarine. I tend to stick with Stork. I find that works as well as anything. And it helps if you've actually had your margarine or butter at room temperature. It tends to mix in better. And the same with the eggs. They always are better from room temperature. They tend to incorporate the air better if you cook with things at a room temperature rather than too cold. So I'll just get in 100 grams there. Just a tiny smidgen more. There we are, 100 grams. So we've got the flour, the sugar and the margarine. They've all gone into the bowl together. Next thing to add in is eggs. So I tend to normally stick with medium-sized eggs, and I always do tend to use free-range eggs. And of course, if I'm really lucky, then Jonathan Dixon has brought me some of his hen's eggs, which are beautifully fresh, and they're lovely to cook with. So I always break the eggs separately into a different bowl or jug, just in case you get a bad egg or you manage to get a bit of shell in there. It's a lot easier to fish out. And of course, if you've got a bad egg and you go and add it in with all the other ingredients, you've got to throw the whole lot away. Very rare that we get bad eggs these days, but just very occasionally. And so we add one at a time into the mixture. And that's everything in there for the sponge. Now, because I'm going to cook this in the microwave, I'm just going to add in an extra tablespoonful of water. You could use milk as well, just to make a slightly lighter mixture, and it tends to rise better in the microwave just with that extra spoonful of water or milk. Now you can mix that all up just with a wooden spoon, or if you want to be a bit quicker, you can use an electric whisk, which I'm going to do just to speed things up. And you just need to mix it until everything's incorporated, and then just a little bit more so it gets nice and light and creamy. And this is where, if you've had your margarine out at room temperature, it mixes a lot better. If you get it straight from the fridge, you tend to find quite often that you get some lumps in it. So just mix that around. If you do it the old-fashioned way, the old creaming method, you put the sugar and margarine first and cream that until it was light and fluffy with a wooden spoon, and then add your eggs, but adding them a little bit at a time, and then you fold your flour in with a tablespoon afterwards. I think that's just about there. Nice and quick with the electric mixer. You can see it's turned a slightly lighter colour. If you were doing it with a wooden spoon, you need to get it so it's just a dropping consistency, so it just falls off your spoon nice and lightly. There we are. And that then goes on top of your fruit mixture. You don't need to worry too much about flattening it out, because it'll do that as it cooks. To get the rest of the mixture, I'm just going to use a spatula, make sure everything is from around the bowl. Just a bit off there. That's out of the way. around where I've spilt a little bit there. And I'm just going to smooth that over the top. There we are. You can, this is a 2-pint basin, you can do it in a 1-pint basin, with a little bit of a tighter fit in there. Got that over the top now. So, as I say, you could bake it, in which case I would put it into a bowl that isn't as deep if you're going to bake it. Otherwise, it takes quite a long time for the heat to get through. So if you were baking it, probably about 40 minutes at gas mark 5 or 180 degrees. Or I'm going to do it in the microwave, which just takes 6 minutes. So I'm going to cover the top with some cling film to do that. I found now that I tend to use a lot less cling film. I bought some of those beeswax covers, which are great because you can reuse them. They fit around your bowl, or you can put them over leftovers, rather than using lots of plastic, but I haven't found an alternative for this. I suppose you could put a cloth over the top and give it plenty of room, especially if you're using a smaller bowl, because you need room for it to just rise up. And you just need to just make a hole just to let the air out. Otherwise you tend to find when you've cooked it, it all goes back in on itself. So that's going to go in the microwave now for 6 minutes. So that's cooking away now. So while it's cooking, I thought I might just show you my rocky road from yesterday. That's in the fridge. I've got it out of the tin. Let's just find it. There we are. So that's the rocky road from yesterday. So you can see I've cut it out. What I didn't do yesterday, quite often I line the tin with either some cling film or foil, and then it's easier to get out. Or if you put it straight in your container, you can just dip it into some hot water just quickly, and that just melts it. I managed to get this out quite easily. So you can see there, that's the rocky road from yesterday. Just thinking back to Jesus clearing the temple, so I'm just going to read just what happened that day. And so this is from Matthew in the Good News Bible. Jesus went into the temple and drove out all those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the stalls of those who sold pigeons, and said to them, "It is written in the scriptures that God said, 'My temple will be called a house of prayer,' but you are making a hideaway for thieves." And so we see Jesus there getting really quite angry. In some versions it talks about him going in and upturning the tables and even making like a whip that he used. And so we see Jesus getting angry. And often we think about Jesus all meek and mild, and anger is actually one of the emotions that sometimes we feel that we shouldn't express, but I think we do need to express anger sometimes, but obviously to do it in a controlled way, because even Jesus did get angry. And sometimes we can get very angry with ourselves, and that does make us feel uncomfortable. And this last year, as we think about Jesus upturning the tables, this last year as we've faced the pandemic, I think many of us have felt like our lives have been placed upside down. I certainly have done, and especially this time last year when we were not even able to go into our buildings at all to celebrate Easter. That really turned my life upside down as a priest, and I had to completely rethink how to mark Holy Week last year and Easter. And it was brilliant that we have the technology that we are able now to live stream things. And so I'm going to just say a prayer now. The pudding's well on its way. I don't think it'll be long now. The sun's on it. Just got another 2-3 minutes to go. So I'm just going to say a prayer and think about how sometimes we do need to feel sorry when things are not how they should be. And so let us pray. Father God, we are so sorry for the things that we have done that make you feel sad. Sometimes we'd rather look after ourselves first and show concern for our families and friends and our environment. Help us to understand that by being part of a community that cares for each other and for the world around us, we will find peace for ourselves. So the pudding is well on its way. So I'm going to find a plate now, just to turn it out onto. And this is always the bit that we hope is going to turn out well. Tomorrow we're going to move on and we're going to think about Jesus and the time when he met with his friends for the Last Supper. And we know that he was betrayed by Jesus, so we're going to think about how Judas received the silver coins. So we're going to make some Anzac biscuits, which are little biscuits which will represent our coins tomorrow as we think about that. And then on Friday, obviously being Good Friday, I'm going to make some hot cross buns. So we think we're nearly ready. Let's have a look. Yes, not very long to go. So I'm going to put the recipe on again when this is finished. I did manage yesterday to put the Rocky Road recipe under the live stream, so I'll try and do that again. It's always useful to have. And of course, this upside down pudding, as I said at the beginning, you can adapt, you can add different things in, use different fruit. I'm actually allergic to pineapple, so my husband's going to have to eat this one. It is really nice with some custard or some creme fraiche or even with ice cream. Really delicious to eat. So I'll just wait now. There we are. Now, one thing to remember about things cooked in the microwave is that they do need to stand just for a little while once they've come out of the microwave. Microwaves cook in a different way to normal oven. You tend to find things don't brown on top, but being an upside down pudding, that doesn't really matter because that's going to end up on the bottom. So I'm just going to let it stand a little bit. Be very careful when you move the cling film because there'll be a lot of steam underneath. So I'll just let that there, and your dish will be very hot. So you may need your oven gloves again. So you can see the top, some of the syrup has just come up to the top a little bit on it. And that's all well and good. And then to get it out, you need to just go around the edge, just loosen it a little bit from the dish. You could grease the dish, but tend to find that's not really necessary. And just hope that everything comes out with it. So if you put your plate on the top, and this is the difficult bit when it's hot, just being able to turn it out. So one hand underneath and flip it over. And lift that up. Sometimes it does collapse a bit, but that's not too bad at all. There we are. So there you can see a delicious upside down pudding, all ready to eat with some custard or cream or whatever you like. So there we are, that's today's recipe. So thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again tomorrow to find out how to make Anzac biscuits.